Welcome to Dodgers Daily. I'm Casey Porter. I'm so glad that you decided to tune in today and tonight. We have a very, very, very special guest, one that I'm very excited to talk to. As you see on your screen, outfielder in the Dodgers organization, Drew Avans joins Dodgers Daily. So, Drew, thank you so much for joining.
Oh, yeah, it's good to be here. I like talking baseball, so any chance I get to talk about it, I'll always do it. So.
Yeah, and that's obvious the way that you play. You can tell that you absolutely love baseball. I've seen your process both as you get ready for games. I've seen you play so many times in Oklahoma City. You can tell you love the game of baseball. You're a throwback. But before we get into your baseball game, I got to ask you, Alabaster, Alabama, right there in the middle of the state of Alabama. Auburn, Alabama. Which way do we go here?
I always leaned Alabama.
Always lean Alabama. Are they going to win this? Do they have a chance to make the playoffs this year?
I think they need another team, though. They need one of those one-loss teams to lose again. And
Another one.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Another one-loss team. So, okay, let's move on. Let's talk about your career. And we're going to get into your high school career here in a minute there at Thompson High School. But I also wanted to start. Of course, you went to SLU there at Southeastern Louisiana. You were a Lion, and I know you're very proud of that. And your very first college hit came against the University of Utah, correct? Am I right there?
Yeah. Yes,
yeah.
I think it took me like 2 months to get my first hit. It did not come right away. It took a while.
Okay, so I got to ask you, of course, we know him as a pitcher now, but Andre Jackson was on that Utah team, and he was roaming the outfield for the Utes that afternoon. So I got to ask you, Drew Avans, he's a AAA Dodger. Andre was your teammate last year in Oklahoma City. Drew Avans for SLU, and then you had Andre Jackson for Utah. Which one was the better outfielder that day, huh?
Probably him. He got the start. I came in like the 8th inning. I think we were getting we won Friday night, and then they won the next two. So I didn't give it to Andre. He's a good athlete. I've never seen somebody even when he picks up a bat in the cage every now and then, looks like he never quit hitting. He's pretty good.
No doubt. So he's probably always begging to hit BP, and then you were also a pitcher. In fact, you got recruited to be a pitcher to Southeastern Louisiana. I believe you stopped after your junior year, in between your junior and senior year, to concentrate on your offensive game. But so Andre Jackson's always begging to hit BP. Now, being left-handed, are you always begging to throw BP?
No, I liked pitching when I was doing both, but it's a lot of pressure on your arm when you're making throws from the outfield and throwing bullpens or throwing BPs. The older I've gotten, the more I try not to do anything that doesn't really pertain to what I'm trying to do that day.
It's amazing how much wisdom that you pick up along the way. So let's back you all the way up. I know you're very proud of Coach Hamrick. He just made last January there at Thompson High School. He was inducted into the Alabama Secondary Schools Association Hall of Fame. He has produced, you're one of the 90 college baseball players that he's produced, and one of the 6 professional baseball players as well that have come underneath his guidance and his tutelage. So talk about Coach Hamrick.
Coach Hamrick was at Thompson before, I really even probably as long as I can remember. He was always the head coach at Thompson, and so whenever he was around, I always felt like I wanted to impress him, because I wanted to be on varsity as soon as I could. And Coach Hamrick, he's not loud. He's not a loud person, but he's very stern in what he wants to get done. He's a very nice guy, and he was. As much as he was trying to help you get to the next level of college, he was also interested in trying to make you a better man. So Coach Hamrick definitely succeeded in that part of it. Every time I go back home and stuff, I always text him to make sure I get to see him and say what's up. He always asks me to play around and golf with him, but it never works out. And, he's one of those guys that you don't forget. He's been around the game for so long, and especially at the start of my baseball, high school, going into college, Coach Hamrick always had my back, so I knew I love that about him.
And you had a wonderful career there at Thompson High School. You're a two-way player, a two-way star, and you got recruited to play at Southeastern Louisiana as a two-way player, and you had a great career there. So take us through the decision. Obviously, it's somewhat local. You're from Alabama, but Louisiana is just one state over. So take us through your decision to go to Southeastern Louisiana and be a Lion.
I want to say that they were the first Division I school that really started to recruit me, and the only one to offer me. So I really, but it didn't take me long to make the decision. I think I went on a visit, and within a week and a half, I had committed. Like it was a similar hometown feel to what I had in Alabaster as the same in Hammond. So it was everything I could have wished for. I got to stay on campus. I didn't have to stay on campus, but where I lived and stuff, it was essentially on campus. There wasn't. I could walk anywhere I wanted to go. I could, and then there's a high school there, so like you always had like more of a family feel than like just one giant campus where nobody really knows who you are. So, and then Coach Latham was the pitching coach at the time, and Coach Reiser was the interim head coach when they recruited me. And Coach Reiser, maybe a little bit louder of intensity than Coach Hamrick, but they were very similar in the type of coach that I played for. So it didn't take long to make that decision.
You know, those smaller Division I schools, maybe some of your bigger Division II schools, you still get to play big-time baseball. I know you got the game-winning hit against LSU during your senior year, a wonderful senior year you had, but then you get to be in a small town like you mentioned, so you kind of get the best of both worlds, don't you?
Oh, yeah. I liked walking down the street and knowing who I was talking to. It was I enjoyed that part a lot.
So let's talk about your career there at Southeastern Louisiana. You came in as a two-way player. I'm sure that was attractive to you that they were going to allow you to do that. And you hit the ball very good, but, and obviously you always have done that. You had a 3.46 ERA there at Southeastern Louisiana. And so I got to know, give us a scouting report, the type of pitcher you were.
I think I wouldn't, for college purposes, I wouldn't call myself a soft lefty, but I definitely wasn't throwing 90, 92 either. I was like in that 84, 87, but I will say I spun a breaking ball really well. I could shape it. I always thought myself a little bit like Rich Hill. Like I could pretty much shape the breaking ball at any point in any count. And when a lefty can do that against lefties, like in college, like it worked out pretty well. So I threw a lot of breaking balls, and I would surprise people with fastball. And then if you could hit my breaking ball, then I didn't really have a changeup. So my change of pace pitch was a bigger breaking ball, and then I would try to shorten it up. That's basically what I was.
You were that guy that, oh my God, I just listening to you talk, you're the pitcher that I left that game going, oh my God, I don't want to ever face that, because it's like you're 0 for 4 and you can't figure out why, and you didn't make any hard contact. You're just that guy that just frustrates everybody.
Yeah, I just wanted to keep the ball down and then make everything look enticing to hit until it wasn't. So I would say, and the older that I got, it was actually kind of funny when the Dodgers did ask me to pitch in the minor leagues for one season. I thought I'd be throwing.
Oh, I didn't realize that. They did ask you to pitch for a season.
In 2019.
Okay, cool.
I did both that year, and I thought I'd be throwing like 83, 84. I was like, this is like, I throw my bullpens, and I was not lighting up the radar gun. But, I mean, it actually ended up getting up to 90. I never really hit 90 until.
Oh, wow.
I never hit 90 until I was a professional. So it was cool. That was a cool moment for me, but I don't think pitching I think they were just trying to manipulate roster rules more than anything. Yep. And that was one way of doing it. So, but I don't, as a pitcher, and seeing what I've seen so far, I would compete and I'd get out.
Sure.
But it wouldn't be the same as somebody else getting. same as everybody else. So
yeah, absolutely. And 2019 was a great year for you. I believe that was the year that you jumped 3 different levels and ended up in Tulsa. So that was a wonderful year for you. I'm going to look to my left because I want to make sure that I get these numbers right. At Southeastern Louisiana, your senior year, we're going to jump to your senior year there as a Lion. You hit .462. Your slugging percentage was .568. So, I mean, just an incredible year you had. You had 23 stolen bases. We'll get to the 40 that you had this year. 10 home runs, 44 RBIs, and then you had a game-winning hit against LSU. Wow, what a year you had there. Your last year there in Hammond, huh?
Yeah, that was a good year. I like thinking about it. I think it's kind of the start of where I kind of learned how to play the game, like more than anything. You know, like maybe I think I had decent years as a sophomore and junior, but I really played the game my senior year, and as far as took the hit the other way when it was given to me. If I worked a good count and got a leverage count, I was able to execute driving the ball into the gap, and I just kind of took it from there. I know that I did not start out my senior year on fire either. It took probably 2 weeks to really get going before, and LSU was actually the game that got me going. So we played them early in the year, and you do something good like that against them, you realize that it ain't that the game's the same. It don't matter who you're facing.
No doubt.
That was probably the stepping stone that really got me going. That my senior year.
Yeah. Was Fiducia on that LSU team? Do you remember?
He was catching. He actually threw me out that game. I don't know how many
really?
times
He tried to steal on him and he threw you out?
He threw me out. Yeah.
Oh no!
As good of a game as I had, I always tell Fiducia that you got me. I don't know how many times I got thrown out that year. Probably a handful, but I know he was one of them because I remember getting a good jump and Fiducia's got a cannon. So I was like, I can't believe that he got me on that one. I was like, good for you.
It's a good thing he's so laid back, though, because if he wasn't, man, you'd never hear the end of that one, right?
He's a good dude. I like that.
So after 2018, your 4th year there at Hammond, Louisiana, you had a wonderful career as a Lion. You get drafted in the 33rd round, a round that no longer even exists. I believe there's only 20 rounds now to the Major League Draft. So you get your career started. So let's look at it from this direction. We'll kind of go incrementally, but I wanted to start with 33rd round, which is down there. I mean, like I said, it's not even a round anymore. That round isn't anymore. And now here you are, one step away from the Major Leagues. So take us to that whole process, how you went from the 33rd round all the way to where you're at right now.
I remember when the season ended, I really was not sure if I would get drafted or not. I know I wanted to, but I really wasn't sure if I was going to. And when my name did get called, it was like a sigh of relief. Like, at least I get an opportunity to do this for a living. So in 2018, I started off on fire. I mean, it felt good to hit the ground running. And there was a scout right before the start of my senior year that says, if you did these things and you got drafted, it would be a senior sign, and you would have to hit the ground running. Like, you'd have to get off the bus and hit. And that was my goal. So as soon as I got there, I don't think any hitting coach I could find, I talked their ear off. So I was like, I'm just gonna play, and it was good. I had a really good start. So
that's fantastic, and you know, listening to him play, he's already described the type of player that he became, the type of player that he learned how to become as a senior at Southeastern Louisiana. I call you a throwback. Of course, I'm a little bit older than you guys are, but you know, there's so many what I call 3 outcome players nowadays in the game of baseball. The 3 outcomes being either hitting a home run, striking out, or walking. And there's just very little in between in offensive baseball now, especially with all the modern day advanced metrics that teams use to figure out the best way to score runs and that kind of thing. And when I see a player like you, man, It is. I get so fired up because you fill in all those holes that a team needs. I call you kind of a Lenny Dykstra type of player. You give off that vibe to me, just tough as nails, and anything your team needs you to do, you'll do it. You had the longest streak in the PCL this last year at 50 games in the last 3 years. I don't know if you knew that or not, but that's the longest on-base streak in the last 3 years in the PCL. You stole 40 bases, and on 2 consecutive occasions, on back-to-back nights, you extended that streak with bunt base hits. So, you do just simply everything to beat a defense. So talk about being kind of a throwback player.
I just like to play the game. I don't really – that's when it all's said and done, it doesn't matter. There's so many different ways to score runs, and I know home run. Yes, a home run is the most efficient way to do it. One swing, one run. But – a solo home run only works in the bottom of the ninth. You have 9 innings to score as many runs as you can. So the first way to score a run is to get on first base. So that's where I start. If I look around, see the defense, if the bunt is there, then thank you, I'll take it. And then
no shift against Drew Avans.
No, I hope you do. That it makes the game a little bit easier. Not that it is ever easy. Even bunting, is a skill. I don't want people to think that anybody can just drop one down.
All right.
Because all spring training, first thing I do when I get to the field is I get loose, and then I go to the machine and I bunt in the morning. That's something that is simple, and if you work at it, it should be simple. So as far as the bunting goes, and then
it's like shooting a free throw, isn't it?
Pretty much. If you're gonna compare it to that, that would be. If there's so many
just
times
practice it and learn how to do it. Yeah.
There's so many times a bunt will win the game, and I feel like people overlook it a little bit.
Yeah, no doubt. You mentioned spring training just a minute ago, and I want to take you back to just an absolutely wonderful moment that you had this last spring training, and Tim Neverett was on the call. I got a chance to talk to Tim last year. He does such a wonderful job behind the mic, but the Grand Slam in spring training, man, that was cool, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was cool. It's only spring training, but anytime you get a chance to play on the big field, I don't take it for granted. That was the second time I got called over, and the first time that I got to go over there, I played defense, and I got one at bat, and I got.
You're talking about the big field?
Yeah, the big field. You're just getting called over to go play in the big league spring training. My first at bat, I get drilled in the back, and that was all right, it's the same over here. People can't.
Hey, I'm on base, right?
Yeah, I did my part. That's another way of getting on. So I was like, all right, keep it simple. And then the second time, I got a chance to drive in some runs, and I did. Got a good pitch to hit and didn't miss it. So just remind you that the game is the same. Didn't matter the situation. Get a good pitch, be on time, good things happen.
You had some adrenaline after you hit it, didn't you?
Yeah, I was excited. It was come off the bench to pinch hit. Even in those, it just it felt good. Even if it was just for a backup kind of day, be a backup. It didn't matter to me. I was glad to be out there.
No doubt. Hey, I must be remiss. I completely should have started the entire show with this, but you had a baby last week, didn't you?
I did. Yeah. His name's
Well,
Dak.
Congratulations on fatherhood. Hey, of all the things we're going to talk about today, none of them are even close to as important as becoming a father.
I haven't got much sleep in the last week, but it's well worth it. His name's Dax, and
Dax.
I'm just opened up a whole new way of looking at things. So it was without even the second I saw him, it was like, all right, you're numero uno. I'll keep it that way.
Wow. You're one step away from the major leagues, just became a dad. Boy, life is good in the Avans family right now. So, you got life right in your hands right now. But hey, let's talk about last year, 2022, 40 stolen bases. Again, you had the 50-game on-base streak, which is the longest in the last 3 years of the PCL. You hit 286, 7 home runs. Your on base percentage was right around 400. What a year you had in 2022, right? I mean, it was like you got momentum, and I believe I saw you somewhere like in April or May, and you had been on a tear at that point. I remember mentioning, you probably don't remember that, but I remember mentioning something to you about how hot you'd been, and the next thing you know, man, it's like 3 or 4 months later, and you're still hot. You had a great year, didn't you?
I did. I executed about everything that I pretty much wanted to execute. If I wanted to lay down a bunt, I laid it down. If I wanted to drive the ball into the gap, I drove the ball into the gap. If I wanted to work a count, get on base, like I worked a count. It was pretty much anything that I really wanted to execute, I did. And I was really proud of that.
Yeah, should have been. No doubt. And another thing about your game that I absolutely love is you're an emotional leader. There's no doubt. I mean, you have fire in your belly. And I know over 162 games, then you have spring training as well. So by the time you're done with it, it's somewhere around 200 games. So it's hard to be emotional, or you can't ride that roller coaster, obviously. You need to be even keeled to an extent. But you definitely are that guy that has a lot of adrenaline every time you play and has a big fire in your belly, don't you?
You never know which game is going to be the game that wins you a championship. I mean, obviously there's
great way to look at it.
Obviously the big one at the end of the year, everybody knows that one, but you never know which one is going to be the difference. So I just assume they all make a difference.
Awesome way to look at it. Hey, let's talk some business here. Rule 5 draft is coming up next month. I'm of the opinion that somebody's going to snatch you up, which is going to suck for me because I love watching you as a Dodger. Of course, nobody knows exactly what's going to happen. So I kind of wanted to ask you, and just from this perspective, is that a distraction for you in the off season, or is that just something you don't simply think about?
I'd be lying if I said I didn't think about it. For my career's sake, I would love the opportunity to get to play at the next level.
Because you'd have to be put on a 26-man roster and be in the major leagues next year. Yeah. Right.
But at the same time, I love the Dodgers organization. They drafted me. They've been so good to me. They've given me opportunities when no one else has. So I'm very thankful for that. And I'll never forget it for sure. And I really don't know what's going to happen with the Rule 5 draft. And as far as the offseason goes, I mean, even if I don't get picked up, I'll go back to spring training with the Dodgers. So the pressure to really look that far ahead, I'm not a GM, I don't try to play GM either. And as much as I would love to get picked up, if I think about it too much, then I'm not doing my job. My job is to play. Their job is to put the best non-players on the field. So I'm trying to become one of those non-players, regardless of who it's for.
I'm going to make this statement, having seen you both in 2021, 22, and you don't have to make a comment to this, but having seen you play as much as I do, and I've been in the game of baseball my entire life, which is almost 50 years, if you're a GM of one of the other clubs that's not the Dodgers, I'm calling Drew Avans immediately. I'm putting on my 26-man roster. I'm putting him in center field next year. I'm telling him to steal 30 bases, hit 10 to 15 home runs, and have an on-base percentage in the mid-3s to 4, and to be at the top of the league and runs scored. And I'm telling you, if you do that, he's going to produce for you, and he's going to give you that. So I just wanted to say that because that's my opinion. I've seen you for 2 years. I am that high in your game. I'm so impressed with you. So you've been in AAA for 2 years in a row. So we've talked the business, the Rule 5 draft. So no matter where you're at in 2023, what are your goals for next year?
Just add on to what I've been doing. If maybe I could drive the ball over the fence a couple more times, that would be ideal. So I get in the weight room and get as strong as I possibly can. But at the same time, I know what kind of player that I am, and I know what I do well. So I'm not really willing to sacrifice maybe 20 points on an average just to hit 5 more home runs.
Sure.
Absolutely not. I'm really my goal is to touch home plate as many times as I possibly can, whether it's a home run, a walk, a bunt, because at the end of the day, the goal is to score more runs than the other team. And that's my goal.
And to put pressure on the defense.
Yeah, right. If you're always on base and you make the pitcher throw out of the stretch, those are stressful pitches, and the more pitchers you get to see in a game,
Sure,
the better opportunity you have of scoring runs.
and such an underrated, metrics aren't able to really take into account when Drew Avans gets on base like he does and he steals 40 bases and the pitcher throws to first base 3 or 4 times. How many base hits were created because that pitcher was distracted throwing the ball to home plate? Those kinds of things, which is why I love players like you, because I would love being your teammate, because I know if I'm hitting when you're at first base, that pitcher is distracted.
Yeah. Again, there's so many different ways to score runs, and as good as a home run is, like a 3-run home run is better than a solo.
Sure. Yeah. So you need somebody on base. Yeah.
Yeah. And, that's what I keep thinking about. How can I touch home plate? And my job is to get on base and touch it as many times as I can. And I understand that. So that's what I'm going to do. As far as extra goals, just keep doing what I'm doing. And I assume things will happen the way that they're supposed to.
No doubt. And you've made them happen. People make their own luck, and you've made things happen in your career. So I like to finish these conversations with guys like you who have been so successful at everything you've done for message for young kids. And boy, your message is really going to resonate, because you're the same size as almost every kid out there. You're only 5'10". You're not huge. You're not the guy that goes to showcase tournaments and probably throws the ball 180 miles an hour, hits the ball 500 feet. You've had to earn everything you've gotten, as we've heard in this interview, just by learning how to play the game of baseball. So for all those kids out there, you went to the smaller Division I school, you were drafted in the 33rd round. So for all those kids out there that might feel like they're going to get caught up in the wash, what is your message for them?
You can't control what goes on around you. Only the things that you do essentially matter. If you're trying to become the best player that you can be every single day, then good things will happen. And for me, that was I try to master the fundamentals. Hit, put the ball in play, drive it when you can, bunt, run, defense. Like, you can work on those things every single day. You can't really control all the outcomes, but you can control what you do and how you react. I would say that's a big start.
Awesome message. And that's one that kids need to pay attention to, because I'm telling you, if you go to a baseball game, and I've told several kids that ask, hey, when we go to the Dodgers game in Oklahoma City or Tulsa, who do we watch? And literally the first guy out of my mouth is Drew Avans. If you want to learn how to actually play the game of baseball, that's the guy you need to watch. So, hey, Drew Avans, thank you so much for joining Dodgers Daily. This was so fun for me and such an honor. I'm so glad that you decided to answer my message and come on. So thank you again, Drew Avans, for joining Dodgers Daily.
Thank you. I'm glad that there's people out there that at least notice some of the things that go on in a baseball game, other than just a home run or throwing 100 miles an hour. It's nice to talk about a little bit more of the details in baseball, which mean more to me than anything. So